Okay, ngā mihi kia koutou, kia ora koutou e hoa mā, ngau mai haere mai, e mahi ana ahau Asia New Zealand Foundation, te Whītau Tūhono, ko Adam McConnochie ahau. We've still got some people coming in, but I will just kick on because I'm just doing some of the intros at the start. Welcome everyone, and thank you very much for joining this session. Innovating for Change, Entrepreneurship, Asia, and the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you to Erica and Wim and the team for putting this really great event on. My name is Adam from Asia New Zealand Foundation, Te Whītau Tūhono. Just let me please start with a karakia. Tu kia te wairoa, kia rere, ki ngā taumata, hai ei rahi i a tātou mahi. Me te tātou whaia i ngā tikanga a rātou mā, kia mau, kia ita, kia kore, ia e ngaro, kia pūperi. Whakamau a, kia tina, huie, ai. Okay, so we're still getting people coming in, but I'm just going to start by bringing up our first poll, just to understand why people are here and what they're really hoping to get from this session. And so while I give people a chance to, can people see that? Yep, cool. While I give people a chance to see that, let me just give you a bit of context. So Asia New Zealand Foundation, Te Whītau Tūhono, equips New Zealanders to thrive in Asia. We want to see a New Zealand confident in and with Asia. And I think for many of us, we know how important Asia is for New Zealand economically, but it's also really crucial for New Zealand to understand this dynamic and exciting part of the world from a social and cultural perspective if we're going to continue to grow and prosper as a people. I'll let people have a little bit longer on that one. So for today's session, we're going to chat with entrepreneurs in Thailand, Singapore, and the Philippines who use the Sustainable Development Goals in their mahi and ask them why and how they use them. We'll ask if Southeast Asia is different to New Zealand and how this might affect different cultural, economic, and how the different cultural, economic, and political situation affects adoption of something like Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm going to now share my screen and just give you some thoughts on Sustainable Development Goals in New Zealand. Okay, so firstly, who am I? My name's Adam. And I run two programs at the Asia New Zealand Foundation, an entrepreneurship and a leadership program. For our entrepreneurship program, pre-COVID anyway, we took Kiwi entrepreneurs to Southeast Asia and invited entrepreneurs from Asia to New Zealand. I've been doing this for 10 years, and so I have a pretty good sense of how it works, and taken groups of social entrepreneurs to the Philippines and Vietnam, and brought groups of social entrepreneurs from Southeast Asia to New Zealand around sustainability and social enterprise. For me, one of the real privileges of this role is being able to challenge Kiwi perceptions of Southeast Asia and demonstrate the innovation and diversity of the region. So one of my proudest moments actually was inviting one of the world's leading social entrepreneurs to New Zealand for the Social Enterprise World Forum in Christchurch, which of course is where this event would have been held if we didn't have COVID. So Heliante is a social entrepreneur, works with 55,000 farmers across Indonesia to protect the ecological diversity of Indonesian food systems. But as you can see, she's a woman who wears a hijab, and I was really proud of being able to bring this different perspective to Christchurch and to this event. But as context, before we get to Asia, I'm just going to explore why I think Kiwi entrepreneurs use the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm going to look at 4 Kiwi companies as case studies. One of these companies is my wife's company. Maybe you can you can tell when I'm speaking who it might be. And the others are Kiwi entrepreneurs I've taken to Asia or are members of our leadership network. They're all female-led. So Chia is a juice company out of Nelson. Raglan make coconut food, mostly coconut yogurt. Solid make sustainable toothpaste. And Dignity are a buy one, give one period product company. So I had a good chat with them and asked them about why they use the SDGs. And there's a lot of reasons, but they've sort of focused on 4. There's a large values alignment. There's sort of the international, it's not a reporting system, but international kind of nature of the SDGs. There's a broad and wide appeal to how they work. and there's some benefits of cost as well. So it was really clear from me talking to these founders that the SDGs align with their values. They want to make a difference, and the SDGs really articulate this ability to create difference really well. For Floss from Chia Sisters, the climate action SDG was really important for her because it helps define her role in Te Tai Ihu and in Nelson, and to bring focus, because as entrepreneurs, there's only so many things you can do. You can't do everything. I think the other thing that's really important to emphasize is what it means for people that work at these companies as well, what it means for staff, because people want to work for companies that make a difference. And I think this is especially important for Tesh from Raglan Food, because she's the company that employs the most people. She employs over 30 people, the largest employee in Raglan. And I know her and I know what this means for her company, but you can see from her social media platform and the way that her employees talk about the company that they're really bought into the kaupapa of the organization and the SDGs that help drive that mission. Secondly, the fact that it's international is really helpful, and it's an international system that's known around the world. It's a really important factor for the Asia companies as well, because these companies are looking at export markets. And I think Tesh, the quote she made before, makes this point. It's also a framework that is increasingly being used for how and when entrepreneurs in New Zealand apply for grants, for loans, and for funding. So some of you guys might know SDG, which is an organization focused on supporting female entrepreneurs with cash loans. And they have an application process that explicitly references the Sustainable Development Goals in the application process. And I think we're starting to see this more and more happening more and more in Aotearoa. And there's also just a broad and wide appeal for the Sustainable Development Goals, sustainable minded companies as well. I think, if you have a sustainable, you have a social focus for a company, that's not enough. Your product needs to be good. You need to, what you need to be doing needs to work, right? And so the SDGs allow people to tell this broader story as well. So for Chia Sisters, for example, it allows them to reference the nutritional value of their drinks, as well as the fact that they've got carbon certs and all that sort of stuff. For Solid, they're able to emphasize the use of fluoride in their product and the effectiveness of the product, as well as the sustainable side. For Dignity, they're able to tell this holistic story about the need for period equity, while also demonstrating a commitment to climate action at the same time. And then lastly, it's a free system. Now, there's lots of certifications and lots of frameworks out there, but as an entrepreneur, you can't be part of them all. I've brought up the one from Dignity they use for their reporting system. They've got a bunch of different systems there, and some of these can be relatively expensive, or together they can start to add up costs. So ECOS going through positive climate positive, that might cost $1,000 just to start off with. It's not huge money in the big scheme of things, but for entrepreneurs, you need to be really careful and really thoughtful about which of these programs you sign up to. And so the SDGs, there's no cost to them. Before I go on to and start getting our entrepreneurs speaking, I think it's important to emphasize what the Sustainable Development Goals don't achieve for entrepreneurs. And I think for me, the main one is I don't think the SDGs help with sales. And I'm happy to be challenged on that, but that's kind of my feeling on this. I think it's definitely part of the brand story, but in itself, SDGs don't directly translate into sales, as I think it's just a little bit theoretical for people. So, for example, Chia Sisters, they're New Zealand's only solar-powered juicery. Solid have a jar return and reuse system. And I would argue, and the feedback and customer surveys that those companies have done as well, show that these tangible and relatively simple actions are far more effective than things like Sustainable Development Goal frameworks, carbon positive certifications, B Corp status, those sort of things. And I guess my feeling, and I think my hope, is that these wider frameworks and these wider certifications will start to be seen as more kind of hygiene factors and more things that you kind of have to do to be seen as a serious sustainable company. But I don't think they're ever going to really drive sales. And as I say, happy to be challenged on that, but that's kind of my feeling. So SDGs in New Zealand, is this the same all around the world, or how are these things different or applicable for New Zealand? So I'm going to let our experts speak to this, but just a few points from me. The SDGs, of course, are a UN system, and New Zealanders tend to respect the UN and give it more prestige than some countries and other countries in the world. We understand that for small countries, a rules-based international order is really important for us, and it served New Zealand well. But this is not a universal feeling. We also, in New Zealand, we tend to be quite, oh God, what's going on? In New Zealand, we tend to be quite skeptical of certain frameworks. This is not unique to New Zealand, but in the context of New Zealand being a high trust society, I think it's more about the feeling that Kiwis have about a brand more than the certifications it signs up for, the frameworks it uses. A good example of this for me is Whittaker's Chocolate Company. They've for many years been consistently voted as one of New Zealand's most trusted brands. And there's an assumption from New Zealanders that that means that they're a sustainable-minded company as well. And Whittaker's are doing some great things. They're doing some really cool stuff with packaging. They're potty to a company, so big ups to them. But they're not, arguably anyway, they're not the most sustainable chocolate company in New Zealand. So there's a sort of a brand association, I think, that is more important in New Zealand. And in a high trust society like New Zealand is, every sustainably minded company or every company that aligns with SDGs will be challenged and asked what that means. But in New Zealand, you do tend to be believed when you make some claims. However, in Southeast Asia and Asia more broadly, and please excuse the generalizations, the United Nations doesn't have the prestige it has in New Zealand and other parts of the world. Rightly or wrongly, it's often seen as a failed institution and one that is controlled by the West because of the way the Security Council works. And so I think that's quite different. Like in New Zealand, international certifications, guidelines, frameworks are really helpful for export-focused companies. But broadly speaking, and I'm aware this is a large generalization, but there's less trust with people's own institutions. So a typical Vietnamese consumer, a typical Indonesian consumer is going to be more skeptical of Indonesian or Vietnamese products, certification systems, frameworks, etc. And they'll tend to trust international systems more. And I guess lastly, the countries of Southeast Asia tend to be low trust societies. And so a sustainable-minded company or a social enterprise really need to prove it in a way that is quite challenging for New Zealand companies. You can't just say you're sustainable. You need videos to prove it. You need to show the whole value chain about how you are doing the right work. And I think that the entrepreneurs we have with us today have managed to achieve that, but it's a real challenge. And you've really got to demonstrate that the whole way through. So I'm going to stop there. Hopefully my Wi-Fi is not needed as much now as I pass over to the actual experts so they can introduce themselves. While they introduce themselves, I'm going to bring up our second poll. So we might start with Indi, please.
Hello. Tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Indi Soemardjan. I'm Indonesian living in Singapore, and I've been in the sustainable agriculture, especially coffee, for 8 years. I run cafes in Jakarta and Singapore. Actually, Adam came to our opening of Singapore Cafe for almost 5 years ago. And I've also been involved with working together with Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia with assistance from New Zealand Embassy in Jakarta, as well as I've also advised United States Agency for International Development for climate change adaptation, especially in the area of monitoring and evaluation. I would like to highlight that maybe later when we talk. Thank you so much, Adam.
Cool. And Nala, do you want to jump on?
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Nala from the Philippines, from Eco Explorations. We're a sustainable tourism organization that's focused on biodiversity conservation and socioeconomic impact for grassroots communities here in the Philippines. And also our partner NGO, which I lead, is the Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, which is also focuses on the sustainable development of parks and protected areas in the Philippines, which includes its restoration. So looking forward to speaking today and to be connected with everyone.
Cool, thanks Nala. And Pai.
Good morning from Bangkok, everyone. My name is Pai. I'm the founder of LocalAlike. LocalAlike, we work on like using tourism as a development tool for local communities in Thailand. I was trying to make sure that local communities they are equipped with knowledge and know-how of how to operate tourism in their businesses, and there are like 2 and 3 business model that coming after the effort of bringing tourism into villages. I can share with you guys later about this. Today I just want to come here and want to learn from everyone here. It's like what do you think of the future of tourism after COVID would be? Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Cool, thank you guys, and interesting poll outcome, so thank you for that too. Okay, so these guys are amazing, they're doing really interesting stuff, and so now you've got the chance to stop listening to me and talk to them a little bit more. So now we're going to split into 3 breakout rooms with 1 entrepreneur in each group. Please ask them lots of questions, and can I please ask you at the start to arrange 1 person from each group to report back on your convo, so that we can just have a bit of a broader conversation about what these mean to everyone as well. We'll do 2 breakout sessions, so you'll have the chance to talk to 2 of the 3 entrepreneurs as well. So yeah, if we can go into the breakout rooms now, that would be awesome.
Oh, we are back.
Wow, we got cut off.
Okay, we're back. I hope everyone had some interesting and productive conversations. We're going to go back and give you a chance to have a bit of a korero with another entrepreneur as well. But first of all, I'm just really interested to get some initial thoughts, some hot takes from what people took out from their groups as well. So yeah, Pai, anyone from your group nominate themselves, or anyone want to jump on screen and say what they got from your convo?
Sure, I think we still like continue the conversations. I think maybe Susan just has a chance to, the only one that has a chance to ask my question. So maybe Susan, you can start that.
Pai has given us a very inspiring introduction about his work, and it's driven from passion. It's becoming very sustainable because that is one of his top priorities, is to make his family and the villages sustainable as a social entrepreneur. So he has written down top 10 priorities for him to do, and he has already achieved 5 of them. And I think one of our group members is also keen to ask the question as to what people in New Zealand can do to help support LocalAlike. I think that's where we end.
Yeah, cool, thank you. I traveled to Thailand a couple of years ago and went on one of Pai's programs, and heartily recommend them, and think that's definitely a way that when we can support by going and doing this as programs, because they're fantastic. We learned how to, we learned the process of making silk in Buriram and in Thailand. It was just fantastic. Awesome. Nella, from your group, I can't see Nella, where is she? Anyone?
Yeah. Actually, we were just getting started. I just shared about how we're applying the SDGs, and then it got cut off. AJ was already starting to ask questions, so I don't know. AJ, maybe you want to share something because you were able to speak earlier.
Yeah, Nella's awesome. Was that what I was supposed to say? Yeah, no.
I agree. Or maybe AJ, any specific things, anything that kind of really stood out for you about the Mahi she's doing?
I think it really tossed her a bit of a curly question away, and I think a really great answer came back, which was simply that the SDGs and her approach to business needs to be holistic and across the whole lot. They interlock, they interweave. It's a much bigger picture than narrowing down to any one thing. So I thought that was really valuable. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. And Indi, anyone in our group? We're mostly listening to you. I think Sharaful or some of the others, but I think Indi was really focused on outcome and measurement, I think, which was really interesting too. Did anyone in our group want to jump on that?
I took some notes, and I have to say, Indi, I was very, very impressed. Indi's response is trying to save the lungs of the earth in the Borneo forest, and he's sort of supporting and helping regenerate land that's been destroyed through intensive farming or monocultures. So he's teaching them how to work in the forest productively, say growing coffee or something, and making sure that they restore and protect the forest as well as get an income so they can move through. So I was really, really impressed. As he said, it's an expensive thing to do for a very small country that's a lot of subsistence farmers, and reaching the many households to show that there is a profit to be done this way. Often it'll take a year, which often people don't have time to wait for. So they, as he said, they need support, and they do have people who can, as Adam said, go and visit and support in that way. But Indi, you're doing an amazing job protecting our forests. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the support from the New Zealand government as well.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, and absolutely, I agree. I love the vision Indi has and the scale that he's operating at. It's really impressive. Awesome. Does anyone else have anything they wanted to get off their chest, or they were really inspired by, or just they were interested by in that breakout session, or anything else so far?
The only thing I was going to add just quickly, following on from what I was saying before, and yeah, the other thing that Nella illustrated was how you can accomplish more than one thing by a bit of clever foresight and thinking about it. So one action can hit a lot of the different goals at the same time.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you, AJ.
Okay, so with that then, we will go into our second breakout room. You'll be paired with a different entrepreneur, and you have the chance to ask some different questions. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll come back and report back. So if we can go into our second breakout room now, that would be fantastic. Okay, guys, so we're getting close to wrapping up, but yeah, really keen to hear your guys' thoughts about that last session as well, and any kind of takeaways or any insights people had. So we might start with Indi's group. Anyone in there who would want to jump in, and or anyone who took some notes wants to talk about what they got from that group? Be great to hear
Jane or Tom?
Spoken yet.
Yeah, sure. Indi gave us some good resources to look into and research, but we pretty much just focused on the having an activity that has an input and an outcome and an action. So something that you can actually measure what your initiatives are doing as you progress through them.
Great. Thank you, Tom.
Adam, I also shared a link in the chat about what I mentioned in my breakout room. You go to the chat.
Good. Yeah. And anyone from Pi's room want to have any kind of insight or anything they want to share? Freya, I think you're coming.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Pi's project was amazing. I think it's been really good to hear all these different projects going on, and very inspiring. We were talking a little bit towards the end about the effects of COVID-19 on the sustainable tourism projects. I think that's kind of the elephant in the room, is that there are a lot of projects doing good things, but currently they're not able to access these international visitors that they need to be able to, create the funds to keep these projects going. So I think that's quite an interesting point of discussion. But yeah, thanks.
And you have to feel for Thailand, a country that gets 40 million visitors a year. It's obviously a massive part of the economy, and we know what it's meaning for New Zealand. So yeah, definitely know how much that's affecting people like Pi and others. Thanks, Freya. Thanks for bringing that up. And anyone else from Nella's group want to share anything? Anyone else have any, we've got a couple of minutes left, so anyone else have any final comments I'd really like to get out and say before we kind of head off and before I do karakia?
Quickly, just to say, sorry, I was muted. So for Nella, I was really impressed with the sustainable tourism, but also how they've got over the COVID, which was just brought up by using their own people to learn about their environment and regenerate it and protect the waters and do all and all of that. But I also found that the inclusion of the waste, somebody in Auckland who's doing on food waste, which of course is a really big part of tourism and food waste and recycling. And I think Adam meant something called kibosh, which is a recycling. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, kibosh in Wellington is doing some great stuff around food waste. I have some friends in Queenstown doing some amazing work as well, which is really cool. Thank you, Claire. We are running just a little bit behind of time because of my unfortunate internet challenges at the start. Apologies again for that. It wasn't it kind of sucks. Thank you very much for coming. It was fantastic to have you all here. I really enjoyed listening to our entrepreneurs speak. Of course, I know them well and always love hearing them speak. So thank you guys, and to everyone for coming. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best for the rest of the summit as well. Just to wrap up and finish up, I'll just do a quick karakia. But if we can just do a virtual big clap for Indi, Pai and Nella, that would be much appreciated. Thanks, guys. So finishing karakia, kia tau te rangi Māria o te rangi nui e te ihu nei, o Papatūānuki e te kato nei, o te tai au e awhi nei, ki runga i a tātou, tihei mauriora. Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Nice to talk to you all. I'll put my email address in the chat if anyone wants to get in contact with me or any of the work that we do. Thank you very much for coming.